All right, let's go ahead and get started on CS 250, our first video, or first couple of chapters. And we have, I have quite a few things to go through on our first video, not to mention two videos, or two chapters. So I was thinking about separating into two videos, but we'll probably just make it one. And one of the main goals that I like to do is, for videos, is to not get stuck in PowerPoint. First thing you see, of course. So what I like to do is I'm going to go through the PowerPoints just to keep me, in the presentation, going towards its outline, and do demonstration and whatnot as we go through the PowerPoints. But I'm going to be really in a hurry to get through PowerPoints, and that is because when we get done, it's going to be time to go play, and that's where I will do my best to prepare you for your assignments and whatnot through the course. So we're going to start with JavaScript, the language, and learning about JavaScript. And before that, we have to kind of understand what HTML, CSS is, because that's what came before JavaScript. And JavaScript is really meant to work, or the reason for JavaScript is to modify HTML and CSS on the fly, dynamically. And what I mean by that is, well, what does dynamic or changing it on the fly mean? Well, that goes back to what an HTML page is. So we're going to start there. And in fact, in your course, as part of your course, one thing that you have for prerequisite is a programming prerequisite, fundamentals of programming, C++, whatever. But with this prerequisite is needed is that 1/4 of programming, and that's pretty much it. But one thing that you need to know, or not really need to know or be aware of, is HTML and CSS. So for that, I've given you some side, because you can actually learn HTML and CSS as you're learning JavaScript, because all JavaScript is the ability to change the HTML and CSS. And you will kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about here in a second. So you can get in and do some HTML and CSS tutorials to kind of get you a head start. But let's begin with just what an HTML page is, and then go further into that to what JavaScript is. So let's go really low level. What is HTML? Well, HTML is a markup language. And when you're talking about a markup language is human readable. So here's an example of Word. Word works like a document works like a markup language, sort of, except for a Word file is in binary. So in the binary file, it describes the data that's going to be shown, that's here in this example, but it also describes how the data should be shown, how the text should be shown. So in this document, a docx, is that description and all that information about the file, what's in it and how it should be rendered. And when I say rendered, I mean like drawn on the screen. That is all done using a binary file. With a markup language, we're able to do it with a human readable file. So we're able to describe all the different ways a text should show up on a screen, or an image, and where it should be located on the screen, using that HTML markup language, so that we can have this type of formatting, but have it human readable, and also so that it's more in the hands of everybody, instead of a docx file that's binary and has proprietary. It's all proprietary. You don't know, it's all black box. You don't know about it. Well, I mean, it's really simple. You can build it yourself, but I mean, it would be your own black box then, and it would work the way you make it. So So what we do is we have, instead of using our own proprietary technology for web pages, we use HTML, and that is to describe how words show up on the screen, how they should be drawn, where images should be drawn, and where they're located and whatnot, just like a Word document. So the HTML file, or the HTML markup language, does that. Now, Word itself, an RTF file, is a markup language file. So Word has their own RTF markup language that they use. I believe Word something or another, WordPerfect or whatever. But anyways, let's go into how that works with HTML. So with HTML, you start up your markup with a text file. Everything's done via a text file. In fact, everything on the computer is done via a text file. So what you want to do is, you always, when you're working with a project, you want to build a folder, and you want to work within that folder. And I always just put it on my desktop. So I just right click there and said new folder. And I'm going to say this is going to be an HTML or whatever. I'm just going to give it a name, and in that folder is going to be my project. Now, what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to create a simple HTML file, and I'm going to do this all without an editor, because I don't want you to learn stuff using editors first, because you don't really understand what's really going on, because editors do too many things for you. So we can create an HTML file in multiple different ways. And one thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure you go to View, and you have your file name extensions checked, so you can name your files correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and right click here and say I want a new text document. Now you see it's going to have the extension of .txt here, and I'm going to say this is going to be my first page, or let's just call it index, because by default a web page is automatically opened in a directory when it's named index.htm or index.html. Now you can have two extensions for an HTML file. You can have HTML or HTML. And remember, all code files start as text. So I want to change this to an HTML file, and you notice that its icon changes, so it can be opened up with Chrome, but that would be opened up for rendering. So if we open up the HTML file, it's going to render our markup language. What we want to do is we want to edit our markup language. And so I'm going to go here, and I'm going to say open with. And what I want to do is I want to open that with a text editor, just Notepad. And Notepad is going to allow me to put in the ASCII code. So markup language all works with ASCII code. There is nothing else. It's not a binary file. It's all ASCII code characters. And ASCII code characters is our standard keyboard template. So that's the only thing that can be in a text file is the ASCII code or the ASCII character. Now, what you do to put an image in your HTML is you just write the code to put the image in there using your ASCII. Just straight up text. That's all it is. So ASCII table, this is usually the one that I like to use the most. This one right here, just to kind of give you an idea of what the different values are, but that's all a text file contains, is 128 different characters from your keyboard. That's it. A text file cannot contain an image. It can contain a link to an image that you will render in Chrome or something, but it only contains text. That's it. So a markup language describes how to render items in the browser, or render items that you're going to show in an editor. In this case, it's going to be a browser. Okay, so for HTML, we got a few things that we gotta tell the browser about the HTML tags. And usually what I like to do is, since I'm always working with 5 or 7 different languages, I always cheat and do different things. I'm going to go ahead and cheat, and we're going to be getting into NetBeans here in a little bit, which is a really good program to use for web development. In fact, I use it for the 250, 316 stuff. Most of what I use, I do through here, and there's a lot of reasons why I went in this direction, and the foremost reason is because it's open source and free. which means that it has its own little problems, of course. So this is going to be our editor that we're going to be using for an HTML or HTML editing and JavaScript editing. I'm going to cheat, and I'm just going to say I'm going to create a new file. And what this will do is it's going to, I just told you we're not going to use an editor, and then I pop right in and use an editor. This is so funny. Okay, so the editor is going to create us an HTML file and give us this stupid little silly pre-code stuff that tells the browser that it's an HTML file. So we are going to choose an HTML JavaScript file, and I'm just going to create it and see if it comes up with the code that I want to copy and use. And we're going to actually be using this coming up soon, but it looks like it does not like me today. So I'm going to take you through opening or creating a JavaScript project shortly. I think we're going to cheat and just get on the web and find HTML file, HTML file header. HTML file header is kind of what we're looking for. And W3C Schools is really good place for resourcing. And this is telling us a header, the header of an HTML page, or just how an HTML page starts. I think your book might be a good example, but I know that when I create a new project with this guy, it's going to give me some code that's already built for me that we're going to take and just copy and paste. We could copy it, but here's our index.html that's auto-generated with the editor, and we're just going to take this and we're going to start with talk about the markup language and bring this over into our text file. Okay, so we're not doing it with the editor, we're just cheating a little bit. Okay, so this is index.html. It's got the right extension, and we start with our head, which determines the header. It determines everything about the web page, what kind of character set. UTF, that is the American standard. In fact, everything is UTF, and basically what it means is it's based on the ASCII code, the 120 characters. You'll see that pretty much on every web page out there, unless it uses special Chinese characters or something like that. Other than that, then you have your body. The body is the beginning of the web page and the end of the web page, which is going to be what is rendered in the body. The head is stuff that's on the head is rendered in like the title page, and this tag denotes that you're starting HTML and then you're ending HTML. So this is typical markup language. I wish I could zoom in on it. That's why I'm using the editor. So we're gonna move over to the editor here. Start of HTML, end of HTML, and you see how it kind of lit up there in the editor. Start of the head, end of the head, start of the body, end of the body. That's pretty much what all HTML files kind of begin with. And what you then do for the markup language is you describe how something is to be rendered. So if we want to have, like, say here, in fact, let's view this page the way it is. I'm going to go to File, Save, and then we're going to go back into our folder without the editor. In fact, let's just shut down the editor because I don't want you actually using that just yet. So we have our index.html and we're editing it right here. I'm going to go ahead and say File, Save, and then I'm going to be able to open this and we're going to see some different things. And you see here we got to do right content. What if I wanted that to look a little different? Like I wanted it to be bigger. And that's what the markup language does, is it describes how you are to render something in the browser, how the browser is supposed to render something. And the browser does the rendering for you. You just have to give them the description in ASCII code, text file. So what we're going to do is we're going to just do a simple markup here. We're going to say here that this is going to be a header. So this is going to be, we're going to say this is a header, and we're going to give it what we call an HTML tag. An HTML tag is what gives the description on how it's to be rendered. So if I say this is a heading a heading 1, meaning that there's different types of headings that we can put in there. And I say, in the heading area, it's going to render that to-do right content larger. Hopefully I used the tag correctly. I may not have. We'll see. I think it's H1. I'm pretty sure it is. But there. See it changed? Okay, so what I did is I saved it here after the change. Then I went back over here to the browser that was opened up my file that's on the desktop, index.htm, and I just refreshed it, and it reloaded the code over here, and it then changed how it's rendered, how it's written, because of my markup language, because of the tags. And that's what a markup language is. It's just text. So this is what you're working with, and CSS is the same thing. CSS allows you to have specific, more control on how things are rendered in your browser. So CSS is very close to HTML, and it's actually built to work together. So I'm not going to go into CSS too much. You guys can look on that off to the side. It's just designed to work with HTML. And make it easier to get things organized around the screen properly. So what JavaScript is here's the problem with websites is once you get the page rendered, what if you wanted to change something on the page? Well, you can't. You can't because it's in stone. It's written in stone, basically. That is static. That file, you can't go in and change that file. It's there. So one thing that needed to happen with web development was the ability to have things refreshing on the screen often and without having to be static and reload and re-render the whole page. Because literally this whole box would have to be re-rendered just to change maybe a period on something or bring in some little animation or something. So what JavaScript is it's the ability to change the tags of your markup language after the browser has read it, but before it's rendered, so that you can change how it's rendered after the fact of you writing the code. And it actually gives you quite a bit more ability to interact with users as far as getting information to and from them and a database, not a database, but just getting information to and from them to a database through like maybe server-side scripting. But so what JavaScript does is that after this guy is in memory and loaded, and before it's rendered, JavaScript says, okay, well, let's go ahead and I want this time that Mr. Whoever is doing this is our real special customer. So he gets the H3 heading, or she gets the H3 heading instead of the H1. So let's change that for them, because we know they're a very special visitor. And that's all JavaScript is the ability to change the tags afterwards, so that when it's rendered, the change happens. So you write the HTML, and then you use the JavaScript to modify it afterwards. And here's the awesome thing about it is it can be modified over and over and over again and re-rendered. So instead of having something that's stuck in a file, we can now change these tags anytime we want and re-render the page dependent on user interaction. Now we've got something that's more like what you're used to when you're using like an application instead of a static web page, which is what they used to be. It's very static. They didn't have much interaction. And JavaScript changed that. And that's what a markup language is and the reason for JavaScript. And in fact, some of the key terms, HTML5 and whatnot, JavaScript is client-sided programming for the cloud, and it's not going away. It's going to be here forever. You can still run scripts built 40 years ago. And then the next step is server-sided scripting, which is more of a PHP thing. But those technologies, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, that is cloud computing and server and basically building web pages. Being a cloud engineer, they're calling them cloud engineers. A lot of different names for them, but basically a website developer. So this is your foray into it. Let's go back to, from demonstration, let's go back to some PowerPoint and blaze through some of those, since I've given you kind of the low level skinny. And then the last thing we're going to do is, let's see, we got DOM, the document object model. Yeah, that's very important. In fact, that's what you're going to be working with. The document object model is basically your web page. It's this guy, but it's how you access it in your document object model is your web page, and it's how you access it using your JavaScript code. So that is very important. And let's see, client server. You guys are good with this stuff. We don't need to. Writing a JavaScript program. Okay, we're going to get into the code editor here, and I'm going to show you how to work with. I think it's time to get to playing. I think we can go play. I'm going to get you started on 1-1. So I'm going to show you how to get started on 1-1. Events, understanding events. This is an important one. We will be probably talking about it as we progress. But events are very important for working in JavaScript so that you can have buttons and whatnot. So maybe we will have time to demo one of those today, an event. If not, we'll definitely on another day. Okay, let's look at the Chapter 2 PowerPoints, and then we're going to go in and have fun. I'm going to, you know what? Let's not worry about, Chapter 2. There we go. Chapter objectives. Okay. So Chapter 2 is functions, and this is something that you guys should, you've had functions from your other courses, so I'm not going to put a lot of time into it, other than when we get into demo time. So I think this is going to be where we need to be getting into demo. Most of this is just code and writing code. So let's go play. Okay, that's good. Half hour talk, half hour play. So the first thing we want to do is let's look at our assignment, and then I'm going to get you started on how to begin your assignments. And I'm going to use NetBeans. You don't have to use NetBeans. You can use whatever the heck you want. Whatever floats your boat. Go for it. Student data files is where we may want to start, because we're going to be doing some hands-on projects that have already been given. Code's already been written for them. So we're going to grab those guys, and I'm going to put them over to the side here. Okay. Never mind. I'm just going to grab what we're going to play with. I think let's do Chapter 2. Let's do Chapter 2, and I believe we want like a hands-on. So we want to go chapter, not chapter, because that's the chapter. Project 2-1. That might be it. Let's go look at our assignments, and then we're going to get NetBeans going. So our assignment for chapters 1 and 2 book projects are hands-on 1-1, 1-2, 2-1, 2-2, and 2-3. I want to go in and let's do 2-1 together, and then we'll call it. Now let's talk about this one right here, your navigation system to at least 5 blank pages. You're going to just create one page that has ref or an aref to blank pages that you haven't created yet, and that's what we call a title bar. And you'll use the aref HTML tag for that. So that's what you'll use, this aref for your individual assignment. and you will link it to web pages that don't exist, like myfile.html right here instead of the full thing. And then you'll create those as you continue on. Okay, so let's go to chapter 2 and get into 2-1. And I've got the printed book, but a lot of times the hands-on, they give you code and you have to type it out. It's kind of nice to grab the printed book. I think I'll look for some of the solutions, but in this case we've got hands-on project 2-1 Fahrenheit to Celsius converter, and they give us the code all ready to begin. So we're gonna use our code editor to open project 21.html and then project 21.js, and what we're going to do is then we're going to modify it to complete the tasks that are given to us. So a lot of the HTML has already been written for us, and remember, JavaScript is going to change the HTML for us, and that's kind of our job. So we're given the HTML, which is kind of nice because we're learning about JavaScript, not HTML, but that's fine because you can learn HTML while learning JavaScript. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a project and get these files in the project and get them ready to work with. And then we will follow some of these instructions. And most of this is just to kind of get you off the ground floor in NetBeans and moving forward. Okay, so, and by the way, read the chapters, please. Chapters, all of it. Even if you have to skim, read the chapters, please. Because this book is probably the best book you will find for JavaScript, period. Okay. Here is our example code from our data files. Now you see that we have a CSS that we don't have to mess with at all. We have an HTML that we don't have to really mess up with. And we have a JS that we are probably going to be making some changes. Because remember, the JS is all about changing that HTML and CSS on the fly, or before, just before it's rendered. And after it's been interpreted by the DOM, and then just before it's rendered. So we're going to go ahead and put this into our HTML, and let's have some good work habits. Let's rename this, and we're going to do this hands-on one. Hands-on one. Okay. That's probably not very good habits. CS250 hands-on 1_1. Better. Okay, now let's get rid of this because we're not going to use it, and we're going to throw these guys in, and these are what we're going to use for our project. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to create the project first, and then we're going to bring these guys in. So this hands-on folder, we probably are going to just recreate when we create a project and then drag that stuff in. So let's go to NetBeans and create the project. All right, and we have something here that I'm going to go ahead and close. Oops, I'll just close it. Okay, file, new project. Now you may have to go in and turn on some plugins for this to get HTML5 installed and whatnot. And to do that, you go into your NetBeans installer, and I think it's tools and then plugins, and then you can choose to put in things so that you can write Python, you can write PHP, you can write in this case JavaScript. So you would go in and install those different plugins. Like if I wanted PHP, I would select that. So what you're looking for is anything that says HTML5 or JavaScript, you're going to want to turn on. Okay? Once that happens, then you're going to be able to go in and say new project, go to HTML5, JavaScript, and then choose your HTML5 JS application, But here's one that's kind of cool. HTML5 JS application with existing sources. Let's try that one out. Because our site root, we've already created the folder for it. And we're not actually doing this on a website. That's something you'll learn in server-sided programming. We're just doing this in a folder. So I'm just going to choose the folder I created as my site root and the project name. And then the project is going to build itself in that folder. Now I could create a new project and create a folder for that project itself. And then move the sources in, which is what I usually always do. But this is using existing sources is fine. But what I usually like to do is I go in here, new project, and I just say just an application, HTML5 JS application. And then I put it on the desktop, and then I give it a name, chapter 250. Let's just do 250 hands-on 1_1. Okay, so that's probably a better way of doing this because it makes it so that the project is built better within the directory. And then we're going to move the files in and add them to the project. This is just the way I like to do it. Okay, when we go next, we don't need a site template. We go next, we do not need any of these. Get rid of these guys. Okay, I'm going to hit finish. Okay, so this is kind of cool. Let's go ahead and close some of these things. But here is my project, and here are the files of my project. I don't need index.html. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in some files, and it's really easy in this program. Other IDEs or independent development environments like Apache NetBeans, you'd have to go to project and then add existing item. But in this case, what we want to do is two things. Your project folder, the project folder you have should have the code files. So this is the project folder we created, and you see it says MB project here, and then public HTML. That's where the HTML files are going to be for our project. So the project that we created in here is 250 hands-on 1_1, and I put that onto the desktop, and it created a folder for me, and that is this folder right here. So now I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to grab the code that is already prepared for us, and I'm going to bring that in to the 250 hands-on, and I'm going to put it in the public HTML. And I say paste. And now we're going to open these files in the NetBeans to work with, and from there on out we will use that. And then we're going to set the default web page of the project to this HTML file. So that means that way you can hit the play. And in fact, if you just hit play the first time and it doesn't find the file, it'll ask you for what it is. If you remove it, you could go into properties here and set it so that the particular file you want to run, it looks like our root folder is set. And then what we can do is specify the particular file that's going to run when we hit this play button. So right here it says start file is index.html, and it has no knowledge of what file we're actually using, which is project2_1. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and browse, and I'm going to choose the right file. That's going to be our starting page. That's going to be our index. In fact, it's probably better if you renamed it to index if you wanted to, but that's all right. So now when I hit play, it's going to automatically show this on the web page. It's going to send that to the browser to be rendered, that HTML file. So I hit play, and I got NetBeans connector going for debugging, and we're going to get more on debugging in a little bit. But I hit play, and this is what happens, what shows up. So we'll go back here, and let's make a change. Let's just change one thing. Let's go ahead and just to play around, we say here Fahrenheit to Celsius converter. This is some special syntax stuff, but That's just to print that special degrees character. For the degrees character, that's all that is. Temp in. Let's just do this. Just so that I know, because it's driving me nuts. Let's just do degrees. Just so I know that there's a change and that we're doing all right. Okay, so I save this. I'm going to save it. Save all. Then I'm going to hit play again. And it says, oh, refuses. I say, okay. I go over to the browser. And there it is. You see, it's updated with degrees. Okay. So our job is to go into JavaScript and make it so that this input converts the value. And for that, we're going to be working with an event handler. And the event handler is going to allow us to interject or find when the user clicks that button and then write the JavaScript that's needed to handle for that. So what we need to do is we need to add some event handlers. And we need to add an event handler for the button here that we're going to have, and that is this input type. That's the button in the web page. So the input type, we need to add an event for when that is triggered. So we have instructions from our book to follow for every assignment that we can get into. And what we find here is that we need to add a function called Celsius to Fahrenheit. So let's go ahead and add that guy. Oops, I don't want to do that. Control C. Copy. That's going to be our function. And if I remember from our PowerPoint, we just have to do function something or another. Let's look at our functions. I'm always cheating. And then we got to do events. We got to add an event handler. Oh, we can cheat there for a little bit. Okay, we'll come back to. I'm pretty sure I remember how to do function. Let's go ahead and go in there for JavaScript. That is, every language is itself. So let's go in. And one thing that we have to do is we have to include our JavaScript file into our code so that we can read it. So right now we're not including this JavaScript. So we need to include that. And right here is where we're going to write our JavaScript. And we're going to start with function. And let me zoom in on this. Function. Celsius to Fahrenheit. I think that's the way it goes. If not, it doesn't matter. We'll fix it. And it's a C-based language, so it does take these guys. Okay, that is our function that we're going to run, and I bet you what we're going to have to do is we're going to probably have to take an argument, and that's going to be Celsius. We'll just call it C. I don't know. Let's just okay. And then we're going to have to return a Fahrenheit. And we're going to say F is equal to 1.8 times C divided by 32. This is totally wrong. I'm just doing this out of memory, which is probably totally bad. And you know what? You guys find out what's wrong, right? But here's the key here, guys. You don't want 32 and 1.8. That's mixing types. This is called a floating type. This is called an integer type. And when you do that, it causes problems when it comes to actually doing the calculation. So you want to make sure that's 32.0, especially for literal. Okay, so then we just need to return F. Okay, so that's totally wrong. Just so you know, I don't think it's 1.8. I think it's like 0.8. I don't know. Whatever. It's in your book. Okay, so you guys get the right thing for that. We're just going to make it work. We're going to make something happen to the screen. So which means that we have to do the event. So what we have to do is we have to add an event trigger but before we do that, we have to include this JavaScript file so that it will be read. Because when the browser reads in this code, It starts from the top and works its way down. Now, the proper place to put and include for JavaScript is right at the very end in the body. And that means then that when that JavaScript file is read, it's also executed. So it defines functions that are in there, but it also executes code that you just literally write. Because you don't have to have your scope declaration with your little squigglies for JavaScript. You can write code right out on the web page. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. Right here, this is a definition code. It's not going to do anything when the JavaScript comes in to interpret this code, other than just define the function. You have to call the function to make it happen. But with JavaScript, what you can do is, it's an interpreted language. You can just start writing code right here. You can just say print hello, and it'll work. Because JavaScript does not need you to be inside of a specific scope, a function scope, to work. It can work right at file scope, which is kind of nice. And you know, being an interpreted language, JavaScript is actually written by C and C++. So it's kind of like a higher level tool. I call them like tertiary languages, super tools. They're built by lower level tools, and they have higher level capabilities, and they're much easier to work with, like Python, Java, C#, a lot of those different types of third-party tools. But yeah, that's JavaScript built in C++, and it just goes in and interprets what you tell it to do. So it's a program that reads a program. So interpreted languages is not a program that compiles to an executable. When you're using an interpreter like JavaScript, you're not really programming. We call that scripting. A hardcore programmer does not call Python or HTML or CSS or JavaScript programming. They call that scripting, because there is a big difference. A programmer builds the C++ that interprets the JavaScript. That's a program. That's programming. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call it programming because it sort of is, and everybody else calls it programming until you get to the hardcore freak in nature that'll tell you it's not, which I just think I just got done doing. Okay, so we're an hour out. I need to get these events in so that we can call it. I don't want to do any more than an hour, so we got to do an event. I think it looks like we got to do the on change event. The on change, so that when something changes, let's see. What multiply 1 plus 32? Oh, it's not divided by 32. It's multiplied by 1.8 plus 32. Okay, you guys change it. No, because I know what you're going to do. You're going to just do that and turn it in, and I'm going to have to tell you to change it. Here. There. And the order of operations is probably off too. So you might need to put some parentheses around something in there. Okay, so we've got that done. Now we need to get the on change event. So the on change we're going to be tying to the web page. The specific part of the web page that we're going to be tying it to is this guy right here. So when you change this, when we change temps in Fahrenheit over here with this drop box, we need to calculate its adjacent temp in Celsius. So that means we need to create JavaScript that will allow us to grab a hold of this event when somebody's changing this value, so that we can go ahead and calculate the new value for its Celsius. So we know that we have this control on the web page, and let's look at that. Here is the control declared on line 35. Its input type is number. So that is, I don't think it's name, but we are going to use this guy. We may need to give it a name, but we're going to set up an on-change event for it. There is its name, the ID. Those are the names that we're going to be using. So we want to detect when the user has changed the Fahrenheit value so that we change the Celsius value. So we want an on-change event for the input control with an ID of F value. So let's look at the on-change event handlers. In fact, I think we got one that we can just go in here and steal. We got document get element by ID. So that's how you get your elements. So in this case, we need to add an event for the element F value, which is essentially this guy right here, that element. So we've got to be able to get a hold of that element through JavaScript, and we do that through the get element by ID. So a lot of things that we refer to on a web page we call them elements. In this case, it's an input box, an input element box. So we're going to add the in JavaScript the code to select that, and then we're going to add the code to add an event based on that particular element. So we're going to go back here to our code, and we're going to use the document.getElement by ID to get our event handler going. So let's go ahead and begin with the end in mind. Let's go look at the event handler code. So you see here that we need to add an event handler. Now you see right here with the event listener, you see here that it says object dot add event listener. So what that object is the number box that we're dealing with. So we got to first get the number box by using the get element by ID. We store it into a variable. Then we manipulate it, or we detect when an event happens on it with the add event listener on that object. So let's get a hold of that. Let's get a hold and let's create the event handler. So let's go with document get element by ID. So that's going to be in JavaScript, and let's do that first before our function. Let's do it afterwards. Always define your functions first, and then do the action afterwards. Okay, so document.get element by ID, and this one is for that guy. It's that one bit right here, F value. Okay, and we got to assign that to a variable that we're going to be working with, and we're going to call this. I'll just call it FV. Okay, and then we'll do a semicolon. Okay, so that's what will give us the object that we can use to run the event on, and that is our Fahrenheit value document or number box. And now we're gonna add the event to this. So that's gonna be where are we at? I don't want that PowerPoint. See, keep on going and get some examples. Oh, the only examples are up above. There's all the get all element by IDs. Nothing about it is in the first one, isn't it? It's the event one that they started out, which is kind of weird that they started that out in chapter 4, but it kind of makes sense because you have to grab a hold of everything that you're going to do. JavaScript is all about changing HTML after the fact, so you got to use the get element by ID to grab a hold of those HTML tags to change them. Okay, so the event listener part, let's just do this. There it is. There's the examples. Change, the change event. We're going to go and we're going to do a search for JavaScript on change event. We want the on change so that when the object is changed, which is the actual number box. Here we go. I like this one right here. Okay, so this right here, the add event listener is going to, the first argument is going to be what the object that we're going to add the event handler on, and then we got to pass it the function that we're using. So we're going to use this example right here. Okay. And instead of object, that turns into FV. Because we get that guy using the DOM, get element by ID. And once we have it, once we have that number box, then we're going to add an event listener to it. And what event listener are we adding to it? Well, when it changes. And what do we want it to do when that number changes by the user? We want it to run the Celsius to Fahrenheit script. Okay, now here's the problem is this return F isn't actually changing the value for us. So we may want to add another event handler on change to make the changes for us. Let's go back and look at what your instructions say to do. No, heck with that. We're just going to get it working and call it good. And you guys can follow the instructions and do it as the book says. I want to give you at least a starting point. Okay, so change, and we run one Celsius to Fahrenheit. The thing is, I want it to do more than return F. I want it to modify. I want it to modify the number box, the other number box, and make a change to it. So I want it to change the C value. So I'm going to use the same code, and I'm going to do this. Is when this function runs, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of this return because we would have to do things a little bit differently if we're going to make it run that way, which would mean that I would have a whole nother, I just have to organize things, trying to make things as simple as easy so that you guys can kind of see how it works. Okay, so this is going to be the C value, and we want to change the C value from the F value. So then it's C value, okay. CV is equal to, and then this guy is the C value. Do you use capital C? No, lowercase c. Okay. Okay, so we say, okay, what does that change to? And then what we do, okay, CV, you're equal to F. And we have to say dot value equals to F. Okay? Okay, now this is going to be totally wrong, but you guys, it's up to you to make it work right. So we get the information from the box. Oh, but you know what? There's going to be a problem. We're going to have to add some more because it looks like we're going to have to do the on change for the other one because it's only going to run once. Okay, so let's bring this guy up, and now we're testing. So we saw there that number one, is our event handler even working? And to do that, we may need to debug. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce this mess. And we're going to set a breakpoint for debugging. Okay. And NetBeans is really cool for debugging. And we just want to determine, I just want to determine, is this even getting run? And so when I hit play, and I go back to the web page, it looks like NetBeans connector is having some issues with this. Let's see if I can't get it to do the, let's go ahead and refresh for the NetBeans connector. And what's supposed to happen is I'm supposed to be able to track this actually happening here, and it's supposed to stop when this function runs, which is not stopping. So I'm going to put the debugger here to see what's going on wrong, and I'm going to run this again. Okay. Okay, so, oh, you know what I forgot? I got so busy into getting this thing written up, I forgot the most important thing. We got to include the JavaScript into our normal source because it's not even seeing it. Because the only thing our project is reading is our HTML page. And it's not until we include it into the source down here in the body, and I got to talking and totally forgot about it. Okay, so include JavaScript. HTML include JavaScript file. Your book probably has it, but you know. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so we just do this. We just declare the script source, and then we should be able to start tracking the debug and making sure things work. Okay, NetBeans connector, just got way too much junk in here. Okay, so, and then our script is going to be this file right here. And then, you know what? I'm just going to rename this because it's stupid. Proj.js. It's just driving me nuts. I'm just going to call it proj.js. Just because it's too much to type. It's ridiculous. Okay, so go back to here, and we're going to call this proj.js. Okay, now my code is going to be read. Now my breakpoint will work because now it's going to go ahead and go into that file and interpret it because I put it in the index. So when I hit play, it's going to run the index and go through and do all the index file stuff here, which is the text project 2.1 text. And in fact, good God, you know what? I just hate this stuff. This one should be renamed too. It should be renamed index, but I'm not going to worry about it now. Okay. So now we should be able to detect with a breakpoint that this is running. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run that. And we're going to look at what happens if the browser actually is able to debug this. There it is. Cool. Okay, so I hit play, and it came up on the website. You know, and right now you see it's kind of still loading. That's because I'm debugging it. Because I set the breakpoint over here with the red. And so what this is doing is it's stopping to wait for me to run this line. And it's saying get element by ID F value. So that means that FV should have something after this is done running. So I'm going to do a step over. I'm going to hover over FV, or I'm going to double click on it and right click on it and say add watch or new watch. Say OK. Then I can look at my watches down here, variables FV, and right there it says HTML input. So that means that, and I can look at the value of it, and I can see what value it has. So this is fairly important stuff. So then now the code's just run by. All it did is define this function right here, and then completed this code by adding the event listener, so that when you change the Fahrenheit value, it's going to call this function and run, and then that will in turn change the Celsius value. Okay, let's see if it works. Let's set a breakpoint here just to test to see if that works when I change the Celsius. So I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to change my value here. Oh, I got to go and hit continue, don't I? Okay, I'm going to hit play continue. And then it's going to continue waiting for the event on the same run. So now it's rendered and it's waiting for my event, and I'm going to change the event, and it didn't run, which means that something's wrong because it should have broke out here. Unless I need to run it again because the NetBeans connector is being a turd, which is possible. No, that should be running. So we should be getting an event listener. This should be Celsius to Fahrenheit should be running, and it's not. So I'm going to go ahead and pause because this is an hour and 9 minutes long. I'm going to go ahead and fix the problem. Then I'll come back and tell you what's wrong, and we're going to call it a day. Okay. I will be back. Okay, I'm going to come back from pause real quick. I do have one problem that I've got fixed. I remember we don't need to pass Celsius to this, so we don't need Celsius to be passed. And another way to debug is to get into your browser and look at what's going on. So in here, what I've done is I've gone to developer tools in the browser, which helps you get to where you can do some debugging. So what you do is you go to this little ellipse in Chrome or something. You hit there and you go to more tools, and then you go to developer tools, and it's going to bring up some errors that you're going to be able to go through and check on in your code. And you got different types of things that you can track as you're looking to see what's wrong with your code. You can even set breakpoints to see where your code is just totally going crazy, that sort of thing, and kind of see how things are going as you progress, which is kind of nice. So I am going to go back to debugging and then give you the solution. Alrighty then. That's just kind of the next step. Alright, more debugging. I'll be back. Okay, well this is really interesting. This kind of tells you why you need to actually do your debugging in the browser instead of using NetBeans connector. Because this line is what was killing it, and I couldn't even, my first thing is, hey, do I even have the function running? Well, I couldn't determine that because this first line is totally bad, and it caused problems. So when I debugged in the browser, it really showed that up, that there's a problem here. And that's where everything just crashed. C is not defined. It does not know what C is because I didn't use CV. And so it's just dying. Typical. So that's one reason why you need to debug in both spots. You need to debug in NetBeans, which is, it's easier to debug there, but the real debugging happens in the browser. It really does with the developer tools, so you can get way more into it with the browser. I think that just needs a real quick change then, and we got it. So this just needs to be CV. But the problem is we can't calculate that until after we get the information, which is another error. So that has to be above. Okay, I think I made sure that everything's running and we're not dying because of an error. Let's do a test. We're gonna get it going. Is it gonna work? Hopefully I don't have to dance a jig. Get rid of this. NetBeans connector is having a problem. I'm gonna have to reinstall it. Okay. Oh, there we go. We got something. We changed over here. Temp C got changed to a value. Okay, so that actually is working. So look, when I change it, it changes. So that means there's something wrong over here. So let's set a breakpoint and let's see what this C value is giving us a problem with. I got too many NetBeans connectors started. Okay, so let's see what we get there. Okay, change it to 34. Did it hit it? No, I'm gonna have to do it in the browser. That's fine. We all need more practice on that. View developer tools, more tools, developer tools. And we are going to go into here to the JS, set a breakpoint right here just so we can see what's going on, make a change. There it is. Let's see what happens. Okay, step over. F is given the value. What is F given? Not a number. Why? Because, oh, duh, that's supposed to be FV. You can change it here and hit save and it'll save the source, but you really shouldn't. You should change it over here. More bugs, more bugs. Duh, okay. Yeah, that's the way it should be. No wonder it was not a number. Okay, no wonder it wasn't working. Okay. Start again. I'm going to hit continue here. And then I'm going to get rid of this breakpoint. Then I'm going to test it. Okay, I'm going to hit continue because I didn't get rid of the breakpoint. There we go. Now I'm having a problem here. Let's try that again. Okay, CD to Y is F being not a number. Okay. Because it has to be CV.value. You see, you know what, guys? You stay away from JavaScript for a while, and you start having all these little issues. Well, you know, when you're working on 7 languages all the time, it just kind of doesn't help things either. Okay, so this has got to be .value, and then here this has to be F. No, that's just F because it's just a variable. It's not a checkbox. Okay. Hopefully this is the last time. Getting closer. I gotta hit continue. Let's just close it down. Okay, and refresh. Okay. Go to developer tools. Don't need that. This is what we need. Oh my god. Yeah, it's way too early in the morning, guys. I apologize for that. Can we please have something that works? All right, I think we got it now. Let's see how we got it. Let's see. Nice, we got it. Woohoo! You guys are going to need to change things though. You guys, so I got it fixed up. Make sure you do the right equation. I don't know if that's the right equation. I'm not for sure. And then also, don't have any of this poop, like this 98.60000. Treat your numbers nice. Make sure you kind of try to floor them or whatever, or round them, or not round them, but make sure that you. Well, it doesn't really happen to a lot of them. Well, I was doing the wrong ones, but okay. That's the general start of our quarter. Debugging both in using NetBeans connector in your editor, your independent development environment, and debugging in your browser are absolutely necessary. You won't have a life, so get used to it. If you've always been the guess and check type, to even move further than a 200 level course in programming, you need to change your ways. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. See if I can find it. Okay, there we go.